Kansas City Chiefs, and you may have noticed this over the past few years, are very good at the sport of football, but especially good at the sport of football in, say, the month of September, early in the season, oftentimes building great big leads as far as record is concerned, and then forcing the rest of the AFC, the rest of the AFC West to try to play keep up. Well, we have an article which is recognizing a little bit of that from the enemies themselves, the Atlanta Falcons website. Now, this article I was exposed to through the Arrowhead Lines article on Arrowhead Pride, so I want to give full credit where that is due, but the article in question is titled, Analysis, Chiefs Dominate in September Games Since Patrick Mahomes Became QB1, subtitled, The Chiefs Are 17-4 in September Games Since 2018, which leads the NFL. The Falcons, meanwhile, are 7-15, by Taryn Wack. The article includes this blurb. The Chiefs, meanwhile, come to Atlanta with a clean 2-0 record. In fact, and the reason I'm going through this is because I believe that the get ahead early strategy is employed for a reason by Andy Reid. In fact, Kansas City boasts the strongest September record ever since Patrick Mahomes became their starting quarterback in 2018, and that is 17-4, an 80.95% win rate. The Buffalo Bills and Los Angeles Rams are tied for second at 15-7, 68.1%. The Green Bay Packers then rank fourth at 15-7-1, 65.22%. The Falcons are further down on the NFL list, tying for 29th. They're 7-15. The Houston Texans are 7-14-1. Both crank out to a 31.82% win rate. I did not read that the first time that I read this part of the article. Shouldn't be a whole lot of cranking out in NFL locker rooms. These September records, which all 32 can be found in the chart below, shouldn't be all that surprising considering some are reflective of each team's regular season records. For example, the Chiefs are 77-24 from 2018 to present day, which ranks number 1 in the NFL during that time. The Bills are still number 2, but the Rams are tied for number 8. The Packers are number 5. Some, like the Chiefs, Bills, and Packers, have been consistent. Others, such as the Rams, not so much. For comparison's sake, the Falcons are 40-61 in that same time span. That places them at number 24. So they've been a little bit better than what September alone shows so far. It is important to remember that 2018 marks the start of all these stats because Mahomes truly changed the Chiefs' trajectory. He's definitely going down in the argument with the best of the best when you get into those arguments. When they happen, whenever he's done, Falcons head coach Raheem Morris said. And he's still going. He's going this week. And he's certainly a problem no matter what. He's one of the best that we've seen in whatever generation you want to talk about. So I thought it would be worth looking at maybe some of the strategy that goes into this, because I don't think that this happens by chance. And I think that it is indicative of the fact that Andy Reid is playing 4D chess the entire time. Everyone is playing checkers. Everybody is playing Candyland, but Andy Reid is playing Monopoly. The number one thing that I think is necessary to observe here is this. Being behind changes the way that other teams have to play. Other teams getting off to a slower start than the Kansas City Chiefs means that the pressure is on them to rack up the wins in shorter succession. This means you have must-win games earlier in the season than do the Kansas City Chiefs. And look, the earlier you have that quote-unquote must-win game, it may or may not be all that must-win. But when you lose it, it becomes incredibly demoralizing. Being behind in standings means that maybe you have an injured right tackle. Well, is he injured or is he hurt? Because if you're hurt, you can play. If you're injured, you're not supposed to. So we can dance with these terminologies and sort of finagle our way into that right tackle playing if this is a must-win game. There is no leeway when you are behind. That, I think, is a very large contributing factor to Andy Reid trying so hard to get out to a fast start to open the season. Which leads into number 2 here. There are only 17 contests. The sooner that you can build a lead in the standings, it becomes harder to wear away at that lead as the season goes on. The Chiefs start 3-1. The Chargers start 1-3. For every opportunity that the Chargers have to win a game, so too do the Kansas City Chiefs. That is a reflection of a 2-game swing, but it happens early in the season. And now, being that you are behind the entire season, you are constantly having to work and look up in those standings at the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs have the same opportunity to win a game this Sunday as do the Chargers. The number 3 thing here, getting a little bit more into the strategy of things, no team is in their final form in the first few weeks of the season. These teams find an identity as the season goes on. Sometimes injuries force them into identities, etc. But what Andy Reid does an incredibly good job at is finding a couple things that the Chiefs can do in training camp. Are they really good at the screen game? Are they really good with intermediate passing? Okay, then you take those 2 things into the first week and you win. The next week, you take those 2 things into the week and you add a read option. So now you have the repertoire of 3 different things at which the offense is really good. You find those things in camp, you add one maybe every week, and then you're after that working on them until you can get a win and adding those wins up as you go, rather than trying to perfect the whole team in 3 preseason games. This is something that we see a lot in the NFL, especially from rookie or younger head coaches. They come out and look as if they are a completely different football team than they were the season before, because they have focused on absolutely everything. And once the NFL season gets going, there are no new wrinkles. So yes, you execute very beautifully on everything you do, but everyone knows what's coming. The number 4 point here, it allows late season rest. How many times have we seen the Kansas City Chiefs take that unofficial bye week the weekend before the playoffs start, which is huge for health and for rest? The Kansas City Chiefs have been fortunate enough to have mid-season-ish bye weeks many of the past few seasons. It's a little bit earlier this year, but that accrual of these hits of all of the wears and tears of the NFL season add up on these players after that bye week and allowing the team another bye week or an additional bye week, because sometimes the Kansas City Chiefs are the number 1 seed, meaning that last week of the regular season and the first week of the playoffs are no good for the Kansas City Chiefs. They don't have to be there. That is massive, especially come late in the season, and especially for a team that has so many playoff games in its near history. And the number 5 thing here that I want to talk about in accordance with this, you have more time to try different things, and you have the freedom to try them in games that you don't have to win. The Chiefs are now 2-0 this season. It strikes me that with the number of wide receivers they have that have not particularly contributed, there might be something up Andy Reid's sleeve for 1 or 2 of them. Going into the Falcons game, the Chiefs don't have to win this game. They have basically a 2.5 game lead on any of the teams that the Kansas City Chiefs figure are likely to be in that number 2 race. That in the race for the number 1 spot in the AFC with the Kansas City Chiefs. So going into the Falcons game, if Andy Reid wanted to work on something, the Falcons look better than I ever thought they would this season, but they don't look like world beaters. The Chiefs could sneak something into this game in order to work on it and have it for later. You put it on film, you have it out there, and a team says, well, if they get in this formation, the play is XYZ. But you've been working on it in practice. You exhibited XYZ on Sunday, but you have ABC already on the note cards, baby. So once practice resumes, you get to experiment, not even practice. You get to experiment in the games once you have a lead in the standings. So that is what I have for this video. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, consider hitting the subscribe button, because I talk about the Chiefs on this channel every day of the week, and I hope to have you back for the next one.